Have you ever stumbled on a sidewalk or slid on a wet floor and felt your heart race from the scare? What you're about to see in this video is that a fall, or even just a scare, can turn fear into a silent companion that limits you far more than any physical injury. How do your mornings begin? Have you been using your golden years to rest, or to live more fully? Have you ever stopped to think about how the first few minutes of the day set the rhythm for the hours that follow? Margaret Henderson, 68, always began her mornings with a walk around the neighborhood. It was the moment when she felt the freshness of the air, watched the flowers open, and greeted neighbors who, like her, had the habit of staying active. But last fall, a single misstep changed how she saw her mornings, and even herself. Margaret knew every corner, every tree, and every tiny crack in the sidewalk. Still, one moment of distraction was enough. A tree root had lifted part of the concrete, creating an almost imperceptible uneven patch. Her left foot caught, her body lost its balance, and before she could react, she was on the ground. The impact wasn't serious, at least not on her body. The scraped knee healed in a few days, but something inside her changed in that moment. It was as if the world had become less trustworthy. Suddenly, every walk felt like a calculated risk that wasn't worth taking. In the days that followed, Margaret noticed a pattern. When she thought about going out for a walk, she felt a chill in her stomach. She started making excuses to herself. It's too cold today. The wind is too strong. I have things to do at home. She didn't realize she wasn't just avoiding physical discomfort, but feeding a fear that was quietly growing. This phenomenon is known by physicians as post-fall syndrome. It's not just about avoiding places or activities, but about a shift in behavior and confidence. Studies show that after a fall, many seniors drastically reduce their mobility not because they can't walk, but because they believe they shouldn't. This voluntary reduction in movement leads to loss of muscle strength, worsened balance, and, ironically, increases the risk of future falls. For Margaret, this new reality settled in almost invisibly. She began to watch the ground ahead of her more carefully, not to enjoy the walk, but to anticipate threats. Walking stopped being a pleasure and became a risky task. Fear seeped into small daily decisions, choosing the right shoes, deciding whether it was worth going to the bakery or waiting for someone to bring the bread. Even inside the house, she noticed her steps were shorter and more hesitant. She gripped the handrail more firmly when going up the stairs and avoided carrying objects in her hands while walking down the hallway. It was as if the world had put invisible signs everywhere. Caution, risk of falling. But how do you train the mind to trust again? How do you return to taking long, steady strides without the ghost of the last fall appearing at every corner? Those questions kept echoing in Margaret's mind until an unexpected invitation knocked at her door. But what Margaret discovered changed the way she saw the world. There are proven techniques that can help overcome the fear that settles in after a fall, strategies that combine movement, mental training, and physical strengthening, capable of restoring confidence in your steps and the freedom to come and go. Margaret didn't yet know what they were, but she was about to find out. The invitation to this change came in the form of a simple flyer left in her mailbox that carried the following words: "Regain confidence in your steps and live without fear of falling." At first, her reaction was skepticism. This isn't for me, she thought. I've walked my whole life. I know what I'm doing. The following week, after much thought, Margaret decided to attend one of the classes just to see what it was like. The recreation center was only a few blocks from home, but even so, she chose to take a taxi. On the way, she looked out the window and noticed how the places she used to visit often now seemed distant, as if they belonged to another phase of her life. The first exercise seemed simple. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart and slowly shift your body weight from one foot to the other. Experts say this movement activates the stabilizing muscles of the hips and ankles, which are essential for maintaining balance. Many falls happen not because a person is weak, but because the body doesn't respond quickly to an imbalance. Margaret realized that even in this basic movement, she felt tension in her shoulders and a slight tremor in her legs. It wasn't fatigue, it was anxiety. Her mind kept repeating, "What if I lose my balance?" Each exercise that changed Margaret's life carries the why behind the movement. The movements that strengthen the core muscles are like a tree. A steady trunk keeps the branches stable, even when the wind blows. What Margaret didn't yet know was that this decision to keep returning to the classes would not only strengthen her body, but would open doors to something that went far beyond physical balance. At first, she thought the exercises were too simple to make a difference. But she soon realized they were strategically simple, designed to reactivate muscles she didn't even remember having, and to train the body to respond automatically in situations of imbalance. The change began in an almost imperceptible way. One day, as she went down the stairs at home, she noticed she was holding the handrail with less force. On another, she crossed the street without that nervous rush she used to feel when the pedestrian signal turned green. These small victories, once invisible, now felt especially sweet. Science explains that this happens because the body is relearning movement patterns. After a fall, the brain tends to overprotect the body, like a bodyguard who overdoes the job. That creates stiffness, and stiffness increases the risk of new imbalances. When we train natural responses, we teach the brain that it's safe to move again. Margaret found herself remembering those words when she did simple tasks. While sweeping the kitchen, she kept her feet firm and apart, distributing her weight. When reaching for something in the higher cabinet, she rose onto her tiptoes carefully, engaging her abdominal muscles. But perhaps the biggest change was happening inside her. The fear that had once settled like a constant shadow now seemed to retreat in the face of each achievement. She began allowing herself small challenges: walking to the library, visiting the friend who lived 2 streets up, going to the Saturday market without relying on a ride. It was during one of these visits to the market that she noticed something curious. While she was talking to a fruit vendor, she felt a slight bump from someone passing behind her. Months earlier, that unexpected contact would have triggered an alarm in her body, causing tension and a loss of balance. This time, she simply adjusted her footing and continued the conversation as if nothing had happened. It was a natural, almost instinctive reaction. Trusting the body is like tending a garden. You don't see the flowers grow every day, but you know that with steady care, they bloom. Even so, there were moments when the fear tried to return. On rainy days, she thought twice before going out. When she saw an uneven sidewalk, her heart raced. But now, instead of retreating, she reminded herself of the techniques she had learned. Look toward the horizon instead of fixing your eyes on the ground. Keep your torso upright. Use the movement of your arms to balance your body. These strategies were transforming not only the way she moved, but how she felt in relation to the world. Margaret was beginning to realize that regaining confidence wasn't about becoming who she was before the fall. It was about becoming a new version of herself, more attentive, more present, and more aware of her own steps. Did you know that even walking back and forth can help you regain confidence? Many times we think we need to do big workouts or cover long distances to improve balance, but in reality, it's the small daily movements that train the body and mind. Walking around the living room, doing laps in the yard, or even moving around inside a grocery store is already an important step toward reprogramming the brain and telling it, I can move safely. It was precisely this idea, turning simple steps into major achievements, that paved the way for Margaret's next challenge. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when Margaret received a phone call from her daughter, inviting her to the fall festival at the Central Park. Margaret hesitated. The Central Park was nearly an hour's walk from the recreation center, and she knew the festival meant crowds, uneven sidewalks, and long stretches on her feet. Part of her wanted to refuse and protect herself, avoiding any risk. But another part, the same part that had been growing since the very first day of practicing specific exercises, whispered that maybe it was time to test her limits. Margaret then decided to prepare during the movement classes by simulating the festival conditions in the room, so she would feel safer dealing with people passing close by, changes in terrain, and distractions around her. The exercises included walking among improvised obstacles with cones and chairs, practicing movements to sidestep people represented by her classmates, and even training her gaze to maintain balance in busy environments, because the secret is to keep her focus on what she wanted to do, not on what could go wrong. When she went to the festival, Margaret was able to confirm that the exercises had truly worked. Not only was her body stronger, but her mind was more confident. Regaining confidence while walking is not a single event, but a continuous process that involves practice, patience, and attention to your own body. As Margaret realized throughout her journey, it isn't enough to overcome fear once. It needs to be transformed into lasting safety. One of the most effective strategies is to maintain regular movement, even in small daily doses. Walking inside the house, going through the yard, or doing laps in the building hallway already helps reinforce safe movement patterns. Constant repetition sends the brain the message that the body knows how to move with stability. Another important technique is balance training in different contexts. This can be done by shifting your weight from one foot to the other, walking in a straight line as if following a strip on the floor, or alternating your gaze, sometimes forward, sometimes to the side. These variations stimulate the stabilizing muscles and improve the body's response to unexpected situations. Muscle strengthening is also essential. Simple exercises, such as standing up and sitting down in a chair without using your hands, rising onto your tiptoes and then rocking back onto your heels, or even lightly holding onto a countertop while lifting one leg at a time, help increase strength and stability. In addition, mental training is a powerful ally. Visualizing yourself walking confidently in places that once caused insecurity prepares the brain to repeat the behavior in the real world. This technique, called mental rehearsal, is used even by athletes and can be adapted to everyday life. The environment also needs to cooperate. Whenever possible, eliminate hazards at home. Keep hallways clear, use non-slip rugs, install grab bars in strategic areas, and ensure good lighting, especially at night. Finally, it's worth remembering that confidence is built step by step, and every achievement, no matter how small it may seem, deserves to be recognized. Walking to the corner, crossing the street, or climbing a flight of stairs without hesitation are victories that, added together, strengthen the body and mind. When these habits become part of your routine, walking stops being just a means of getting around and becomes an act of independence and freedom. Just as it happened with Margaret, anyone can regain, and even increase, the confidence they once thought they had lost. You can also regain your confidence and independence. But you need to take the first step. And for more tips like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find content that supports your mobility, balance, and independence, helping you live each day with more safety and confidence. Your journey towards steadier steps can start now, and we'll walk together.